It is Wednesday, my dudes, and of course you know what that means. It is time once again to revisit Velocity Lake, the theme park that I'm building in Planet Coaster. Filming it, uploading the videos to YouTube, etc, and we pick up right where things left off last week. We are going to continue working on this little roadway that will, provide a means for staff to get from the entrance of the theme park to the hotel district and so on and so forth. Now, so I'm going to address something that might get mentioned in the comments, and that is, yes, I revived the It Is Wednesday, my dudes intro just for this episode, just because, and there's no real easy way to say this, guys, but I have made the executive decision that once Velocity Lake is concluded, Planet Coaster content on this channel, at least in the form it's in at the moment, will be no more. I've been making Planet Coaster content since 2017, so it's been 3 years, and I've really enjoyed doing it, but I just have to accept defeat at some point. And whilst I love you, I say this all the time whenever I talk about the view count of this series, but I must once again reiterate that this is not me complaining or being otherwise disgruntled by the fact that nobody watches these videos relative to the number of views that my Kerbal Space Program videos and Space This Week videos get. But the fact remains that these videos have very, very low view counts, considering my channel's subscriber count. And, every kind of thing I've looked into about how the YouTube algorithm goes about recommending channels to people, if a channel has a very, very underperforming series, that channel just sort of comes across quite badly. And it's weird. This series just gets so little views compared to everything else I put on this channel that at this point it's only really hurting my YouTube career. And more worrying and more annoying than that is that whenever sponsors approach me and they ask for my analytics, they're always very turned off by the fact that I have a series where my view count is just a fraction of what my other videos are, and it really does skew my analytics. It makes it very hard for me to get sponsorships. It's just that this series, I think it's been fun. It's been a fun thing, and I have enjoyed making Planet Coaster content. But I think once Velocity Lake has concluded, I think that would be a good place to end Planet Coaster content as we know it on this channel. Now, I would like to just say that I do like Planet Coaster, and I like making these videos, and I really do want to continue making Planet Coaster stuff. I've not yet decided how I'm going to change the formula or what I'm going to do to make sure that it doesn't, compromise the overall health of my channel, but also at the same time, making the content that Planet Coaster fans want. So it's going to be a thing. I might just migrate the entire thing over to my second channel, Lowne 2, but I don't know yet, basically. Or I could do more infrequent videos, like how Silver Red does it, where he uploads once every 2 months, but the videos are much more grandiose and broader in spectrum than your typical episode of Velocity Lake, but just being uploaded less frequently. Because the irony is that my Planet Coaster videos might be a little bit lower, smaller in scope than a lot of other Planet Coaster YouTubers, because I'm trying to keep the series going weekly. Every single week, I don't want there to be a week where there is no Planet Coaster video, in order to appease the YouTube algorithm. So it's kind of ironic that I'm now having to basically just stop Planet Coaster content because of the YouTube algorithm. And it's a shame, but I think it's the smart thing to do for my channel. I think, I need to have some sort of focus. At first, I was just a gaming channel. I had Kerbal Space Program, but I also had Off the Hook and Planet Coaster, so it made more sense. But now, I'm basically just Planet Coaster and then a space game and a space news series. And so I think the algorithm's a little bit confused by that. It doesn't know what to do. But if I just cut Planet Coaster, then I would become a space-themed channel. So I'd have a space video game series and a space news series. And that looks a lot more simple. And I think the machine learning knows what to do with that. So anyway, that's why I started the video with It Is Wednesday, my dudes. I don't want to bring a downer on it. I am welcoming of your suggestions. If you've got an idea of how you think I should, change the formula for Planet Coaster, then, let me know below. I quite like how Luke the this was ages ago, actually. I saw a channel called Luke the Notable did a series called I Survived 100 days in hardcore Minecraft. I think that was it. And that I quite like the format of that show. Like, he uploads once every 3 months for that series. I think, I have no idea, I'm putting this number out of thin air, but he uploads very infrequently, but he will spend a long time on each video. So like, I spent 6 months making this roller coaster in Planet Coaster. Here's what happened, and that's the whole video. In fact, I could probably give a better example if I can show it on screen. Actually, I put a little card if I remember. That's how I originally did Planet Coaster and, way back in the day, Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 content on this channel. I would just build an entire theme park and just make that one single video. And it was just a mixture of commentary like this, post-production commentary, and partly just live commentary. Like, I just had my microphone just running whilst I was building, and I would just dictate my thought process as it was going, and I'd kind of splice it up to be nice and punchy, nice and abridged, and I thought it's kind of a good formula. Need to slow down, don't I? The reason I stopped doing that was because it was such a lot of work for a very short video, and didn't really get that many views. So then I decided to go for this as well. I was like, it's not getting many views, maybe because I'm not being consistent enough. But 3 years down the line of consistency has sort of debunked that theory. I mean, Planet Coaster is weird because I'll have some episodes that do really, really well and others that just don't. So I don't know. I don't know what to do anymore. But Planet Coaster, I think, has had its day. It's had its moment in the sunshine. Most Planet Coaster YouTubers have moved on. They're doing Planet Zoo content now. They've done a couple of reprisals for Planet Coaster, but by and large, it's not really a game that's being played on YouTube anymore. And I think that's probably contributed to the lack of popularity in this series. Maybe. I don't know. I have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. Maybe when a hypothetical Planet Coaster 2 comes out, I'll revisit doing this series. But I think, I don't know, like I say, I think it's time to just rip the band-aid off. It's been fun. I didn't want to do this, but I'm going to have to do it. So Planet Coaster, Velocity Lake, I believe, because we're on episode 67 now, aren't we? I believe Planet Coaster will be 70... I said Planet Coaster again, didn't I? I believe Velocity Lake will be 70 episodes long. There might be a bonus episode 71. My theory is this. So episode 69, nice. That's the last episode in which I build stuff. Then episode 70 will be a big tour where I show all the POVs and we walk around the park and marvel at everything, and we can open it to guests, and hopefully it works. The paths aren't just broken. And then, but maybe in episode 71 could just be a reflective piece where I look back on all the good times spent in Velocity Lake, because my goodness, it has been like over a year and a half spent making this one theme park. And I look back at like various different parts of the park and I see my own life reflected back at me. Like, I remember building that roller coaster, just that big purple one. I was renovating the garage when I was building that. That was on the back of my mind whilst I was placing the tunnel pieces. And then, when I was building the big white B&M Giga, I think we were rewatching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia for the 10th billionth time. And I was just watching that on my second monitor because I don't know how I could just remember certain sounds happening whilst I was building stuff. And I remember watching It's Always Sunny. And yeah, it's just a lot of stuff happened. And then like when I was having my kitchen done up, I was building, the purple roller coaster. That was it. Yeah, that was like March this year. And I was building the warehouse district. So many memories tied to various aspects of this park that I can just look at the areas and I get a bit nostalgic. So it's been a real emotional ride for me. Velocity Lake, pun intended that as well. And it's gonna be a sad moment, I think, when I finally end the series. I have to think about my career. And I think this is unfortunately, it's just business, I'm afraid. It's just the smartest thing to do. I mean, YouTube isn't my full-time job, I must stress that. But, it's nice just to have as like a hobby. And, maybe one day if my views do increase or I branch into streaming when I finally get a bit more free time, then maybe it could become a more full-time job. So it's just trying to set things down in place just to protect myself, really. And I don't know, my channel as a whole recently has not been doing that well in terms of its view count. Kerbal Space Program is doing pretty poorly. Space This Week, though, is doing really, really well. So maybe that could be the next shift for my channel. I mean, goodness knows, Marcus House, it's worked really, really well for him. He pulls like, he pulls like 200,000 views in like a day. That is insane. He is going to overtake my channel in like 2 months, basically, and I'm really salty about it. But, Yeah, so but I don't think Planet Coaster is really the way forward when it comes to having a healthy career on YouTube. I think the algorithm and, you know, my subscribers not watching this video, they've both spoken. And again, I must stress, and I know I stress this a lot, and I feel like it's probably just more annoying now I keep saying I must stress, but I must stress that I'm really not annoyed with people for not watching this series. That couldn't be further from the truth, because goodness knows there are channels I'm subscribed to where they try and do other shows and I'm just not interested whatsoever. Like, the best example would be Adam Savage's Tested channel. Like, he does loads of videos with like his other people that aren't Adam Savage. I don't know any of their names, I'm really sorry. And he does a podcast as well, and I don't care. I just want to watch Adam Savage build stuff in his workshop. I don't care for any of the other videos. And, you know, it's a similar thing for people who subscribe to this channel for either Space This Week or Kerbal Space Program. And I can't be mad, because that's what you came to the channel for. And really, at this point, having this weird conflicting Planet Coaster series, which is not really like my other two series at all, whereas obviously the other two series are quite closely connected, I think it's just a bit... I don't know. Like, I feel like I subscribe to channels and then I'll just see these random videos start appearing in my subscription box. And I think, what the heck is this? What the dickens is this? I don't remember subscribing to this channel. So I click on it and it's like, oh yeah, I remember that, because they did a really cool thing just here for this video. But most of their videos aren't actually like that at all. They just make this weird stuff that I'm not interested in. Okay, I'll unsubscribe. And I worry that that's what a lot of people were doing as well. Like, oh, I'm going to subscribe to Space This Week. It seems, I hope at least, it's a professional sounding overview of all the stuff we have to look forward to regarding spaceflight. And hey, a little bit of Kerbal Space Program on the side. That's a little bit up my alley as well. That's a little bit relevant. Oh, why are all these roller coaster videos appearing in my subscription box? Who is this Matt Lowne person? And, you know, I don't want to watch a video about Velocity Lake. I'll just unsubscribe from this channel, and then I'll just forget Space This Week even existed. And that's another thing I would worry about. So I realise now at this point that it's 12 minutes into the video and I haven't addressed anything that's going on, but I hope that you guys could sort of see what I was doing. I'm just expanding this part of the car park. This part of the car park, in fact, has been a bit of a thorn in my side for the past however many weeks it's been there, where the car park until today has just sort of terminated in this weird... Well, it hasn't really terminated at all. It's just sort of faded from tarmac to grass. And I never really knew how to make the exit. Or I guess a better way of phrasing it would be I kind of knew how to make the exit, but I really couldn't be bothered. But it was just something I had to cross off the chore list at some point. So here we are today doing that. So that's basically what I'm doing here. And then as you saw earlier, when I started this commentary, we were doing some work on the staff road that connects the staff road by the entrance to the staff road that goes to the hotel. It's kind of an awkward path, really. It was a bit of a puzzle trying to get staff to the hotel area of the park, because the terrain and the overpass highway thing, the A road, are all kind of in the wrong places, and I couldn't really find a good place to run the road, but I thought this was kind of a good compromise, really. We did have to have some sort of like level crossing where the road would cross over the public road, and we had to have some barriers there to prevent collisions, what have you. Obviously, it's not done. I will add some traffic lights so the members of the public can't just drive straight into the staff members, but I wanted those barriers on the staff road just so that members of the public couldn't inadvertently turn left or right when in fact they were supposed to drive straight on. You'd think it'd be obvious, right? Because it's going to be signposted telling them where to go. But as someone that drives a car quite frequently, especially in like for my job where I have to do lots of community visits, there are a lot of people who what are you doing? How have you not crashed your car at this point? They probably have. That's the worrying thing. Basically, what I'm saying is there are very, very... there are drivers that make you question the safety of the roads, put it that way. And with this knowledge of, you know, being a driver in the real world, I'm like, we need to make this as foolproof as possible. So I added those barriers there to stop members of the public turning left or right as they crossed the staff road. And that's what I have to say about that, really. I mean, I think I've covered the main thing I wanted to talk about today, which was, of course, the cessation, the epic conclusion of Velocity Lake that is currently looming ahead in the not too distant future. But I certainly don't want it to be the end of all Planet Coaster content. I mean, goodness knows, I have started making recording footage of my next Planet Coaster project. It's coming along really well. I've started the entrance building. We've got the car park laid out. We've done some terrain. We've done some like landscaping. We've started placing monorail terminals. It's going really well. So I need to do something with that footage I've got so far. So I will be doing something, and I don't know what yet. Maybe the next park will be like the Planet Coaster video I talked about earlier, where I just make it one giant long video, or just like 4 or 5 videos rather than 67 videos. I don't know. Only time will tell. I'm very welcoming of all suggestions in the comments down below. And, here you can see me making a little no entrance sign, which is quite difficult to do with the stock in-game pieces. Because I'm weird and refuse to use Theme Maker's Toolkit. Like, if I'd used Theme Maker's Toolkit, I could have made a really good no entrance sign. But, whatever. I always thought the charm, part of the charm at least, when you see people making these amazing buildings in Planet Coaster, is how they've achieved certain, like, looks and aesthetics using the limitations of the in-game pieces. And I think, whilst Theme Maker's Toolkit is a really good addition for making ultra-realistic recreations, it does sort of somewhat take away from that impressedness that I get when I see a really impressive-looking build. So, yeah, that's one of the reasons I don't use Theme Maker's Toolkit. And I guess because it makes the video a little bit more accessible. Like, you can see, I could do all this myself if I just fired up the game. I have everything available to me. It's not, okay, what do I need to download to build the stuff that's been built on screen? I mean, that's one of the reasons why I don't use Kerbal Space Program mods very frequently. Because I like the game to be relatable. I think I've given this example a few times now, but not recently. And that was when I was a young lad playing Kerbal Space Program for the first few times. I think I was like 2014 or something, so a while ago. At the time, Scott Manley was doing his Interstellar Quest series, and I'm like, okay, Scott Manley, this guy seems to know what he's doing. Let's check on what he's playing today. And he fires up Kerbal Space Program, but it's the most unrecognizable version of Kerbal Space Program ever. Like, he's got so many mods that it doesn't even look like the same game. And I didn't realize that at first. Like, what I don't have these parts. I've got everything unlocked. How do I get that? And it was, I guess I'm just a simple person, but it was kind of, I didn't really enjoy it very much because I'm like, I don't really relate to what's happening on screen. I don't know what any of these parts mean. He's like, what's this new fuel type? Because bear in mind, I'd only just got the game and was barely familiar with how the game worked. I think if I was a seasoned player, I would have appreciated it a lot more, which made me think I should probably go back and rewatch Interstellar Quest to see if I relate to it a bit more now. As a more, I'd like to think I'm a better Kerbal Space Program player than I was back then. I'd like to think I'm at least somewhat familiar with the basic mechanics of the game at this point. So maybe I'll get more out of it this time. But back when it first came out, I couldn't really get into Interstellar Quest at all because it was so modded and so completely different to what I was used to. I was like, this isn't for me. This is not for me. And I really don't want this to sound like I'm being negative against Scott Manley's content, by the way. Obviously, I think I speak for a lot of people that I wouldn't have the first clue what I was doing at Kerbal Space Program if it weren't for his tutorials. I think there's been a lot of incidences like that in this commentary, hasn't it? Now, I don't mean to offend. I don't mean to give this impression. I don't mean to convey this message, etc., etc. But that's why I don't use mods in my Kerbal Space Program videos, to loop back to how I got onto this tangent, because I want my videos to seem accessible and relatable to players of all skill caliber. And I guess this is another thing that's been introduced now, is that there are players who play Kerbal Space Program on console, which obviously the console edition wasn't a thing when I first got the game. And console players, I don't think there are any Kerbal Space Program mods for console. Like, I know that console mods are a thing, like, now in games in general, not just Kerbal Space Program, but I'm not sure if Kerbal Space Program itself has any console compatible mods. So that's another reason to try and keep things as vanilla as possible. You know what? I wish Kerbal Space Program could get the moon base that the PS4 version has and the Xbox 360? No, Xbox One version. Goodness me, it's very draining talking like this for like 19 minutes right now without breaks. Yeah, the console version of the game has a moon base that you can launch from. Like, when you press launch and you can choose your launch site, you can launch from the moon in the console version. And I don't know why that's not in the PC version. Like, maybe they wanted to justify the console release being called the Enhanced Edition. And so they wanted to keep some features locked away from PC. But it's like, really? Come on, you're gonna start hampering other versions of the game just to try and make one version seem better. I mean, if you've got a good gaming PC, you're not gonna buy Kerbal Space Program on console, are you? So I don't really know why it's not being brought to the PC version. Anyway, I shouldn't spend too long talking about Kerbal Space Program stuff because there are people on this who watch this video that might not play Kerbal Space Program or, care for Kerbal Space Program very much. And looping back to the first topic that we covered for the bulk of this video, I'm sorry, you guys are going to be the ones that lose out the most probably, from me terminating Planet Coaster content on this channel, at least in the form that we know it. I must stress that this is not necessarily the end. I'm saying not necessarily the end because I really don't know if it will be the actual end. I might terminate it completely. But I like to think that I'll find some sort of good compromise. Maybe I'll build a space center. Like, forget Loopy Lagoon, or we can just rebrand Loopy Lagoon as a space station. Like, I don't know, Rocket Launch Park. I'm not going to lie to you guys, I just made that up on the spot, and I think you can probably tell that. But, something like Lowne Aerospace Space Center. I'm going to stop trying to think of names on the spot because I'll just panic and come up with just something rubbish. So, what can I talk about here? Here we are back at the no entry signs. They probably won't work for everyone. Someone will probably find a way to accidentally go down that road. But I think because it feeds onto the main road like this, it's fairly obvious. The only reason that road is there is because if someone sort of misses their parking spaces, as you can see, we've got a little one-way system in the car park. If someone misses a space or something, and they end up going out of the car park, they have a means to get back to the entrance of the park. Obviously, they'll have to still go through the toll booth, so it's not a perfect solution, but they could just, show their little badge that they were given at the toll booth or something. In theory, most theme parks I've been to with car parks, they have, people, like marshals, guiding you to a spot. Like, oh, you need to go down that lane there, there's a spot at the end, park there. So in theory, it won't be that necessary, but it's just covering myself, and then again, we're putting some no entrance signs here to stop people going down the wrong way, but this should hopefully be more likely to work because it'll be members of staff using this road exclusively, or heavy goods vehicles deliveries, 2 groups of people that will have had training or will at least be familiar with the overall layout of the roads around this theme park. And that's it, actually. That's pretty much everything we need to do in this episode. I'm doing a quick ground level view of this area that we've got here, and that's it. Thank you for watching this video, guys. I feel like this was kind of a negative commentary, but I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. There is a link to the full Velocity Lake playlist on the left-hand side. The right-hand side was chosen for you by YouTube's recommendation algorithm. There are also links to other things in the description. Guys, thank you so much for watching my video. Like I say, I really hope you enjoyed it, and I do hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, my dudes.